More than 1 in 10 consumers struggle with medical debt and the damage it can do to their credit report. Today on the Dollar Structure interview, we'll ask Gerri Detweiler what consumers need to do to minimize the damage from an overdue medical account. When I have a question about credit cards or credit reports, Gerri Detweiler is one of the first people I turn to. She's the host of Credit Talk Radio, the director of consumer education for Credit.com, and just generally recognized as an expert in all things credit and credit reports. Gerri, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Gary.
Now, today's topic is overdue medical bills. I know in my dealings with credit counseling agencies, they say about 1/3 of their clients come in due to medical bills. How common is it for people to have problems with their medical bills?
This is a huge problem, and I want to emphasize that it can happen to anyone, even people who are super ultra responsible about their bills. So this is a really, really important issue for consumers. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, just put out a report, and they found that over half of all collection accounts on credit reports are due to medical bills, and about 1 in 5 consumers with credit files have a medical collection account on their credit report. That number should absolutely floor us, and I hope it's going to result in some changes in the way medical bills are handled in this country.
Well, why is it that it's such a big problem? I mean, most everyone has medical insurance these days.
That's true to some extent, but our medical billing system is so convoluted. I don't know what your experience has been, but I broke my hand not too long ago, and I went to the emergency room. I received bills over a period of time from no fewer than 5 different providers, and I didn't know where they would be coming from. So it's not like I left the ER and they gave me a list. Well, here's who treated you. No, I got a separate bill from the doctor, from the ER, from the radiology, for the splint and the sling that they gave me in the ER. They were all separately billed. And, if you don't catch one of those bills, or if it doesn't come to you, if they have the wrong address in their file, you may not even know about the existence of this bill until you hear from a collection agency, at which point it could be too late for your credit.
Yeah, no, it's even if you receive the bills, you're not quite sure whether it's something that you still expect your insurance to pay or not.
I still haven't figured out what I was actually charged for in the ER. I've tried to get to the bottom of it, but I can't even quite figure it out. And just as an example, I got 2 separate bills that look like they were for the same thing from different providers, and it turns out, I guess, one is for the splint and one is for the sling. They looked very similar. I made multiple phone calls. One provider actually had to get on the phone with the other provider to try to clarify it for me. It was that confusing. And Gary, when you think about it, we have rights in this country, for example, when it comes to our credit card charges. If you have a dispute over your credit card bill, something you don't understand, maybe something you were billed for that you didn't receive, you have the right to dispute that, withhold payment, the credit card issuer investigates, and it stays off your credit, right? So that kind of protection does not happen with medical bills. So we actually have more rights when it comes to disputing a $10 credit card charge than when it comes to disputing a $1,000 medical bill. And I think that's a real issue given how convoluted medical billing is today.
Yeah, sure would seem to be. Now, what can consumers do not that would be the first thought when you're heading into the ER with a broken arm, but what can you do to prevent that kind of problem?
Yeah, well, I have to say, my first thing, my finger was dangling right in an odd angle, and the first thing I said, are you a participating provider in my insurance plan? Because I've seen too many of these things. But the most important thing is to try to stay on top of the bills as much as possible. So do not just wait until you get a bill. And I'll give you an example in my situation. I was reviewing as the explanations of benefits. That's the form that your insurance company gives you that shows who billed them, what your responsibility is. As those come in, review them and look and see what it says for patient responsibility. It took 52 days after I went into the ER to actually get the EOB processed for the emergency room portion of the visit. And in the meantime, I contacted the ER. It wasn't easy to find their contact information because I hadn't received a bill, but I dug around and stayed in touch with them and let them know that, you know, I was waiting for this bill, that I wasn't ignoring it. And they said, no problem, we're waiting for insurance. I've heard too many situations, Gary, where someone never gets the bill, but they hear from the collection agency. So read those EOBs, see what your responsibility is. If you have questions, ask them. The other thing I would suggest is you start a file. So if you do go into the hospital emergency room, you're going for extended treatment, you want a file where you stash all those things and you try to stay in touch. Now, this is not easy in the situation where someone's been in a, you know, serious car accident, they suffered an injury, an accident, a very serious illness, a heart attack. Those problems are huge. But see if you can find someone, enlist a friend, a relative, someone you trust to help try to stay on top of those bills so that they don't slip through the cracks. And then be proactive. So if you do get a large bill and you can't pay it, talk to the provider, find out if you can set up a payment plan with them. And if you stick to those payments, that they won't turn it over to collections, get it in writing, take notes. What you're trying to avoid is a situation where they think you're just ignoring the bill, so they write it off and they send it over to a collection agency and it goes on your credit report as a collection account.
Yeah, we did an article a while back and included some information from people in the billing department. They say that if you contact them, and they realize that you don't have insurance covering, quite often they'll even write down the bill a certain amount to try to help you along. And
that's right.
They really don't want to send it off to collections if they can collect from you directly.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have insurance, I mean, even with insurance, co-pays and deductibles can be substantial.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have insurance, then you go into a hospital, especially a nonprofit hospital or ER. The Affordable Care Act provides some consumer protections. They have to give you a chance to apply for financial aid. So whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, you still want to say, I don't have insurance, I'd like to apply for financial assistance. How do I do that?
Now, suppose someone's been in an accident or whatever, been in the ER, and they haven't heard from the hospital or any of the doctors involved, say 4 weeks, is that the time that you'd say, okay, it's time to start trying to chase it down, that there's something wrong, or do you wait 2 weeks, 6 weeks? And about how long do you wait before you start getting excited about it?
Yeah, I would say 30 days out. And if you haven't seen an EOB, an explanation of benefits, then that may mean they haven't actually billed your insurance, and that may mean they have wrong information for you. So I would say 30 days out, you need to contact them.
Okay. Now suppose you miss this window, and the first call that you get is from a collection agency, and you go, oh my goodness, that's right, I really should have paid attention to that. I was too busy getting healed up. And now, what can consumers do? If it's after the fact, they've already fallen into the trap.
Well, under the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you do have the right to request validation of the debt. So you can say to the collection agency, I wasn't aware of this bill, will you please send me something in writing? And then while you wait for them to send it to you in writing, you can contact the provider and say, look, I never received a bill, what happened? Do you have my correct address? If you found out that they billed the wrong address, for example, or never sent you a bill, then I would really try to, if you can, try to get the provider to pull it back from collections. If you get them to pull it back from collections, then it's going to probably come off your credit report and you can pay them directly. I've had quite a few consumers who have had success with this in situations where they didn't just ignore the bill, where they never got the bill or the provider never updated their insurance information or whatever it may be. So that would be my first recommendation. If not, then talk to the collection agency and say, look, I didn't get this bill. I don't want it to ruin my credit. I will pay it. Will you remove it from my credit or not report it at all if I pay it right away? And they may say, well, we'll report it as paid in full. That doesn't do the trick, because if it's on your credit report as a collection account, paid or unpaid, it's negative under most credit scoring models. So the ideal situation is to try to get them to agree not to report it given the circumstances that you didn't have a chance to pay it or you were fighting with your insurance company or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so basically the steps are when you're back from the ER, try to keep in contact with them. Let the hospital and the providers know that you're willing to pay. If you have a problem, try to negotiate with them. And if you do fall in credit, try to get it properly reported on your credit report.
Exactly. And one last tip, and that is that if you do enter into a payment agreement, try to get something in writing that they won't send you to collections if you make those payments. Consumers seem to have this misconception that as long as I pay something, they can't turn me over for collections, and that's a misconception. You need to pay whatever you agreed on time and also get them to agree. We'll let you pay this amount over time. If you have a $10,000 medical bill and all you can pay is $10 a month, you probably need to talk to a bankruptcy attorney or a consumer credit counseling service, because that's just not going to take care of the debt in any reasonable time. My rule of thumb is if you can't pay off the debt in 5 years or less, then you need to get professional help, outside help, to try to figure out what to do about this debt.
Really, a debt that's hanging over your head for more than 5 years would make you sick.
Yeah, you're right.
And well, Gerri, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate your wisdom and sharing it with our viewers. I want to thank our viewers for joining us. Invite you to follow the Dollar Structure on various social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and visit our website. We're going to have a link to Gerri's website, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, and hope that you always live better for less. Thanks again.